Welcome, or I should say hello. I'm Dr. Giovanni Rondo, local internal medicine physician, owner and founder of Global MD, and your host of Healthy Mind, Body, and Spirit, a show that's dedicated to the improvement of our entire world, but with a particular focus on the African American community. And today I have a very special guest today, Dr. John, who is coming in today and talking about the field of medicine, just in general. Yeah. And so I'd like for you to just go ahead and introduce yourself, Dr. John.
Great. I'm Dr. Chon Dung. I am a hospitalist, and I love what I do. I was internal medicine trained, and I'm board certified. I know that's a lot of words, but you know.
And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about, just those concepts, because the field of medicine is so broad.
Yeah.
It's so very broad. And so I wanted to bring Dr. Chon on because she works you can see she's in her scrub, so a lot of people think that maybe, surgeon or whatnot, but she is what's called a hospitalist. So we're going to talk about, being a hospitalist, also talking about what it takes to become a physician. And so I'll just let you go ahead and get started with the beginnings, because your beginning is very interesting. How you got into the field of medicine.
Oh my goodness. I guess, okay, so we'll start off that I'm a first generation Filipino Chinese American.
Okay.
When I first came here, I was 6 years old, and about 6 months into us being here, my father died. And it was...
So your mom was a single mom?
She was a single mom, and so she worked most of the time. So I've never seen that woman work less than 80 hours a week. I'm serious. Like 60 to 80 hours. Minimum 60, she'd have always a full-time job and a part-time job. So unfortunately, I didn't see her a whole lot, but I also mostly saw my grandparents. They kind of like raised us. And
so you come from kind of like a multi-generational household where
yes.
A lot of people maybe, a lot of our viewers may come from as well.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I don't know. In the Philippines, it's actually it's what people do. Mm-hmm. The parents work and the grandparents stay at home, take care of the kids, and that's how it just keeps happening. And then you retire, and then you become the grandparents to your kids while your kids work. And they
kind of pass that on.
Yes, that's kind of what happens. So it wasn't anything different for us. It was just like, well, this is what happens. So, but yeah, what you were saying is, when I was in high school, so coming from that and, getting meal tickets to like eat lunch and, not having a whole lot of money. And then also like talking to people as growing up, they like to put you in a certain box and to tell you that you can't do something, or they give you...
Try to put limits on you.
Yes,
try to say what limits. You can
right.
do. Yes.
It's amazing how a lot of counselors, do that. I don't think they mean to, but, I was an honor student. And yes, I didn't have straight A's, but, when we were thinking about schools I was going to apply to, he didn't say, go to apply to UCLA or Berkeley. And he said to me, apply, maybe you might get into Davis, maybe San Diego, you can try Irvine. And I was like, okay, and I thought to myself, that's fine, because I didn't know any better. I didn't have anyone before me who had gone to college to tell me, what? Why aren't you applying elsewhere? Or to tell me how the process is. Or I had to learn that all on my own, and I just based it on the people who were professionals who were older than me to tell me what to do next.
So you're mentioning all those schools because you grew up in California.
Yes.
Okay. Because here in the Midwest, we're like, what? So you grew up in California. So the big schools, or the most popular schools, or the schools that were harder to get in was UC Berkeley and UCLA.
And Stanford,
yeah.
And Davis is up there too, But he was telling me to go to Santa Cruz, which is fine. I mean, Santa Cruz is a great school too, don't get me wrong. It's just, it was just the way he said it, as if, that was...
Minimizing and just... You can just do this little stuff instead of kind of reaching more towards the stars.
Right.
Yeah. And I remember that as well. In high school, it was kind of like, some of the counselors, or our major counselor was just kind of like, okay, yeah, you can do teaching.
Yeah.
But when it came to being a doctor or the field of medicine, it was like, no, you just, no.
Yeah, not for you. And I'm like, why not for me?
Yeah. So you are a witness that, you can be more than, maybe what people kind of think.
Yes.
Just overall. Okay. So tell us about that journey from, let's see, you went to college.
Yes.
And then, okay, tell us about that.
I went to UCLA and didn't have stellar grades. Again, I think you need a guide. And, they try to put that in process. And I remember trying to go into these programs to try to help guide me. But you really, if you're the first generation coming into the college, you have no clue how this is going to go.
Yeah.
And you don't know things like, you don't have to work as hard, take some loans out so you can study as much. I was working 40 hours a week and I just thought that was normal to...
In college?
Yes.
Wow.
And so my grades weren't stellar. And so my college counselor looks at me and says, you're never, you want to be a doctor? I really think you should consider doing something else. And of course I cried. Because again, she's the professional. She tells me that, and of course, why would I not believe her? So I spent like 8 months working as an assistant manager over at FedEx, and then...
So you had some different life experiences before you, okay.
I did. I passed the series. I went to finance after that. Spent 3 years there and passed the Series 7. I was going to be a broker and get my master's. And then I get a fateful phone call from a friend of mine and said, have you thought about going to a Caribbean med school? I said, what are you talking about? like I said, I'm the first generation. I don't know what this is all about. But she was talking about, you can be a doctor from there. Okay, I said, so what's the catch? And she goes, well, it's a foreign medical school, so it's not as easy to go. I'm like, no, if someone's going to give me a chance, I'm taking it. And so I quit like a month, I literally applied, they had rolling admissions, and I got admitted, and literally a month later I quit.
And you were in medical school?
And I was in medical school in the Caribbean. I didn't even know where this country was at. It was Dominica. Wow. I literally just landed and went, okay, I know you're close to St. Lucia somewhere, right? Yes.
Wow, now that is a leap of faith.
Oh, it is a leap of faith. But when you know. It's one of those things, and there's a little voice that tells you that's not where you're supposed to be going. When you have roadblock after roadblock after roadblock, that's somebody telling you, even God telling you that that's not the direction you're supposed to go. That's not where I want you to go.
Okay. Wow.
So if it's hard, so this is what's interesting, is that was easier than doing any of the other stuff I was doing. I just got in, not that it was easy, not that medical school is easy.
No.
No, it's not easy for anybody. But applying was easy. The information I got and then going from there was just a smooth transition.
Okay.
It wasn't it was difficult for me to get out of my lease. It wasn't difficult for me to sell my car. All those things became...
So it kind of once you kind of saw, I guess the end goal, the journey was not necessarily easy, but it kind of, your path kind of opened up.
Yes.
In a way, almost like the Red Sea Party. I don't want to say the Red Sea Party, but But yeah. So, undergrad, and then spent a little time doing some other things, and then you got into medical school.
Yes.
And that was for 4 years.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and then I went to, and I did my medical rotations, and then, and while I was doing that, you're always trying to decide what you want to do. And I really was stuck between surgery and internal medicine.
Okay.
And what I did, and I know I didn't want to do internal medicine because I was married at the time, and I remember telling my husband, if I do surgery, we might not be married anymore. It's very stressful, and I'm not going to be spending a lot of time with you.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, I hope you never get into surgery. And
that's his hopes came true. Yeah.
He did, because I just applied to both places, and where I got in was where I got in. And I got into internal medicine here at St. Vincent's, and came here, and so.
Awesome. So I think sometimes people don't understand the path into medical school and how difficult things can be. Just I guess not just medical school, but just the path to becoming a physician.
Oh yes.
So and of course I know it, but do you want to kind of explain that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, yes, it's literally the Hunger Games from day one in college. I don't know if you remember this, but it's literally, once you tell everybody, once you get into college, there's the lawyers, there's the PhDers, and then there's the doctors. And literally we all separate out into these groups. And it just becomes, I've never gone into a class and I would take notes and everything, and I'd be like, yeah, you can share my notes, and people were like, oh no, I've worked hard to write these notes, and you may not know we're not sharing.
Wow.
I'm not giving you my
So no
information.
help whatsoever.
Not
It's
that there was no
all-
help. You always had to find the people, you
Yeah.
know, and
Find your tribe.
Find your tribe,
Yeah,
you know, and you
yeah.
got to study with them and everything. But you know, unfortunately, my tribe also, I think we were all a bunch of first generationals, so it was kind of hard. We were like just kind of lost all the time. But you know, you know, it's a fight, and like you know, and then you get people telling you no, and I think the biggest thing besides being intelligent, I mean, the biggest thing, it has to be your fortitude to be in medicine. You have to be strong. Like there isn't
determined
because
Yeah.
at every point in the game, you're being told you're not going to make it. This might not happen. So what you may not know about Caribbean med schools is they will admit like 400 to 600 people per semester. There's 3 semesters. And so out of those people, when they graduate, only about 600 graduate. So all those people who went in and paid $100,000 for their first couple semesters, they don't walk out with anything.
Wow.
And they've just paid for school. And they can finish their whole 4 years and not get a residency. And be MDs, but with no residency, you're not able to practice.
Okay.
And so that fight there, you know, and that ongoing, so for me it just felt like a fight from all the way, because the thing is, you have, in the classes, you have to make sure you obviously do well in your classes, and then you go to the next level, you know, and then you have to pass the tests. You know, there's USMLE 1
Yes.
and 2.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
And everybody's like, I hope I get a good grade. And the thing is, you know, you're culling all these really, like, the top 10 percenters from everywhere to go to medical school, and then you're again fighting these like 10 percenters to try to get into programs and to pass this test. And these are who you're competing against, you know, to pass or at least, you know, get beyond that, because there are people who want to be dermatologists and radiologists, and they're not going to take a barely pass score, you know. And it's, you know, it's just amazing to me how much people don't understand how literally it's the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
You know,
it's a fight. It's
a
definitely,
fight.
I remember that. It's
Yeah.
definitely a fight.
And
So, but you have done well with your fight. So after medical school,
Yes, 4 years
you
medical
went into residency. So tell us about that.
Yes. Oh, and then residencies and all the can of beans. You walk in there, and again, it's like, you know, now you're being given patients. But the good thing is you're being supervised all the way through.
Okay.
There's always, as a first year, as an intern, even though you see an intern, there's literally a second and a third year, maybe a second year, maybe just a third year. But then on top of that, there's attending, following.
Or a fellow.
Yeah, or a
Sometimes
fellow.
fellows, yeah.
And there's like, so there's 3 people, although you're the one who meets the patient, there's literally 3 people looking at what you're doing the
Right.
whole time,
Making
making
sure.
sure your education is done, like you know what you're talking about. Because not only that, even after our 3 years, you know, even after our 3 years,
I know.
we get tested again.
USMLE
A 3.
3, yes.
But 3 was okay.
Yes.
I'm talking about the boards.
Yeah. Oh.
That is a beast
Yes.
in its own.
Yes, it
I
is.
mean, and so even that, so there's so many barriers for you not to become a doctor at the very end. There's so many barriers.
Yeah.
And I know friends who have not passed those barriers. And, you know, they either owe a lot of money or they end up, you know, but it's amazing to me, you know, when we get to the end of that route, it's like, I don't know if you look back and go, wow, did we just go through that?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. But the thing about it is that you just take one step at a time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This
You
is
just take one step. You take literally one step, one day at a time.
Yes.
So you don't necessarily worry about, in 10 years, you
Yes.
do have a goal
Yes.
for 5, 10 years. You know, that it's great, because I do remember when I was in medical school, I used to have these 1-year goals, 2-year goals, 3. Actually, throughout my whole life, I've had all these goals. But you don't try to get to the goal all in one day.
No.
So you take whatever you can each day.
Yes, that's
So,
how I
yeah.
tell people, because when they say, oh, I don't want to go to medical school because it just seems so hard, and I tell them, I said, actually, it's not. The first thing is to study for the MCATs. That's, and then like
The
you said,
medical college admission test.
yes,
Yep.
and you just take that test, and that's your one step.
Yep.
and then the next step is, okay, I'm going to apply. Yes. Don't look into, I'm already going to residency and where state am I going to be at? That's not,
right.
Because that's overwhelming.
One step at a time.
Absolutely.
Yep. One step.
Absolutely.
So what caused you, because you work in the hospital and you are what's called a hospitalist, and that is kind of a quasi-new term for a doctor, doctor or a physician who works solely in the hospital.
Yes.
So tell us about that. Tell us how you got into that field.
Well, let's start with internal medicine, because a lot of people are very confused about that, right? I always tell people, I'm like, they say, oh, what kind of doctor are you? I'm an internist. And they're like, so what exactly is that?
So she's going to explain what we both do. We're both internal medicine physicians, and she's going to explain that. Right.
So pediatrician, everybody knows that's the kid doctor. You know, you say geriatrician, that's the elderly doctor. You say cardiologist, that's the heart doctor. Everybody knows those terms, and then you say internal medicine, everyone's like, So internal medicine it's literally it's basically we take care of adults, basically 18 to forever, and that's it, and that's really who we take care of, 18 and up. There are some who like push the boundaries and they might go 17, and then there's and some people will just be like at 65 they like to pass it on to a geriatrician. So there's that caveat, but we literally take care of all the adults.
Take care of all the adults and take care of pretty much all their general medical problems. Like we focus on high blood pressure, diabetes, some of the topics that we've talked about on this show. So we generally, but if we do need a specialist, it's great to have that cardiologist on this side.
Absolutely.
And if they have a gastrointestinal problem, great to have the gastroenterologist on the other side, just different things. But we can take care of pretty much everything.
But see, even in residency and as an internist, we are, as an internal medicine group, a lot of specialists come from being an internist first.
Right.
So a lot of our training is, you do a couple months in the ICU, you do a couple months in cardiology, and you spend it in geriatrics, and you spend GI. And so you get a little bit of everything, and that's why we're so well-rounded, and that's how you go from there to becoming a specialist.
Right.
Because you have to be well-rounded before you step into a specialist role.
Right. Right. So yes, thanks for just making us just remember that we are very well-rounded in our education and our training. So you focus a little bit more in a hospitalist setting. So tell us about that.
So internal medicine is a traditional, we call them traditionalists, meaning initially doctors would see patients in their clinic, and then they would go and see them in the hospital if they got admitted. And with it being so busy, both ends, they've internal medicine is kind of split into the hospitalists and the internal medicine docs. I don't know if you guys have a term for working in the clinic. But basically internist still, right?
Still internist.
Outpatient internal medicine, and we're inpatient internal medicine. But another name we go by is hospitalist.
Because you just focus on just the hospital work.
Right.
Yeah. So I remember when I first started my practice, I worked both in the hospital and as an outpatient. So I was considered, even during that time, that was in the 2000, 2002, I was considered a dinosaur because most doctors were either being focused on just the hospital or just the outpatient setting, just in the clinics. And so I was doing both. So by the time my daughter came around, I was like, ooh, I can't do both because it's so much. Because I would go to the hospital in the morning, I go to my clinic in the afternoon, in the morning after I rounded early in the morning. Then I'd go back to the hospital for lunch, see patients during that time, then come back to the clinic in the late afternoon, and then sometimes have to go back to the hospital to see patients in the evening if I had gotten any admissions, and that just became just a little bit too much, especially when I had my daughter. Right. So I started pushing them to people like you who could, see my patients just in the hospital, and then just kind of let me know what's going on with them, as I continue to take care of them as an outpatient. So thank you for what you do.
Oh, no, thank you for what you do, because you keep them away from the hospital. So.
We try to keep them out of the hospital, but if they need to.
Yeah.
So tell us about life being a hospitalist.
Well, it's one of those things, as you know, it's a new sort of field, and I remember when it first started, people didn't know what to think of it, because they're like, wait a minute, because we used to think of it, oh, you want to round in the hospital? I remember a lot of the internists were like, you want to round in the hospital all day? I was like, yes, actually. And they're like, wow, I do. I actually enjoy it. And they're like, oh. And usually it's because I like the acuity. I like that not that I like.
So when you say acuity, what do you mean?
Like they're more sick. I guess in order to get into the hospital, you have to be a certain type of sickness. Or and I like taking care of that. And I like I always tell people, when I first got into medical school, they were like, "You're so nice. You should be a pediatrician." I don't know what it is about it. And so I kind of think of it whenever I think of I work at nights now, and so I admit people mostly, and I try to be the ambassador of the hospital. So what I do is as in that pediatrician mind, I know that it's very scary. It doesn't matter how old you are. It's scary to be in the hospital. You are going to be poked, you're going to be prodded, and this coronavirus is just making it so much worse with your family not being able to be by your side. So I try to be that person who tells them, okay, this is what's happening, and trying to, explain to them, hopefully it's not as scary. And let's try to think of ways to make it not as scary. And I know people are thinking, oh, that's so cheesy, they're an adult, but no.
It is a scary.
It's a very scary place to be.
It is a scary place to be. Yeah. To being on the other side. I remember when I was on the other side when I had my daughter. It's really different being in a wheelchair. It's different being on the examining table as opposed to so it's definitely different. But speaking of, I'm glad you mentioned about COVID-19 and about the pandemic that we're in right now with the coronavirus. How has life changed for you? I can just imagine in a major way with the coronavirus. And then how are you kind of helping patients as a hospitalist to just kind of get through this whole period?
It's different. So basically, I want to protect everyone I meet, and I also want to protect my family. So the one thing that the corona brought to mind is, how do I do that? So basically being covered, being gowned, PPE, cleaning my equipment between all my patients, changing my gowns between all my patients, making sure, I read their story to see if there's a possibility of having that, and kind of almost double PPE, because not only am I wearing an N95 mask, but if I feel like they might have COVID, I will also wear the PAPR just to make sure, and, besides washing my hands or, using the alcohol, just being more
taking
aware.
Those extra precautions.
Exactly. Like I don't, I'll change my gear. When I come home, I go straight to the laundry room and take all my clothes off so it doesn't get tracked around my whole house.
Right.
Just
do you take your do you have like another set of clothes in your car or in your garage?
My car is covered in plastic. I don't know if you saw it. It's covered in plastic, so when I leave my things from the hospital, it sits in the plastic. And I even have in the back of my car, I have like a Clorox wipe so I can, and Lysol and things like that to like wipe off my shoes.
Wow, I've never heard of.
I know, I'm on a whole different level of this. and
you are really taking true precautions.
Yeah, and I think I'm lucky to have that available to me, and that I'm able to buy it or I'm able to get it, because I can't imagine not having that option. I think it's an option, but it's also, I think every patient that I see has the right not for me to give them COVID because I got it from another patient.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for taking those precautions, for your patients, but also for yourself.
Yes. It helps both of us.
In both ways, yes. Yeah. So how does it feel in terms of just being truly, because you were truly on the front lines, literally, on the front line of healthcare during this pandemic. And it's kind of like you are putting your life on the line on a regular basis. So tell us about that.
It feels that way. It's interesting because I don't know if it's ingrained in us as doctors. I'm not even sure how to say it. It's almost second nature to almost hurt ourselves to help people.
But but we make an oath to do no harm.
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying. It's like it's ingrained in us to think that way. That I almost, when you said like, you were saying, how are you protecting yourself? A part of me went, no, but that's not the important part. It's our patients.
You are important.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. So basically, some of the things that have changed is to, it's oh my gosh, I'm gonna cry about this. But
No,
basically,
no,
it's really it's been really sad. Like basically, families have to be separated. They can't visit their families. So there's a lot of like me calling, families just telling them, hey, your grandmother's fine. I'm sorry, because it's sad.
That really is. And thank you for your compassion and for your empathy. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
It's not easy. It's definitely not easy. But I thank you as, I'm a, healthcare worker also, but I don't work in the hospital. So a hospital is a whole nother entity, just overall, especially in a pandemic. I mean, none of us have been in a pandemic, except for, I have to say, my grandmother, who's 103.
Wow.
So she was in the not in the Spanish flu pandemic, but she was living during that time. Wow. So that's the only other person that I know of personally who has been in a pandemic. So, and she's doing great.
Yes.
Yeah, she's doing great. So thank you for, taking care of yourself as you take care of other people.
That's the thing that we have to keep in mind, honestly, as doctors. I think I think sometimes we spread ourselves a little thin, and I feel like we feel responsibility, like you said, in our field, the responsibility to take care of people, the responsibility to take care of our family, and so I think we put ourselves kind of last sometimes. And I know that's silly because if we're not doing well, how is anybody else we're taking care of to do well? So.
Yes. And so I think that's one of the reasons why when they talk about flattening the curve, that's one of the reasons why it's really important to try to so-called flatten that curve, even though we talk about that, but it's because we're not going to make the curve go away completely or make the coronavirus or COVID-19 go away completely, but if we can stop so many people from going in all at one time, it'll help to save, it'll not only help to save lives, but it'll help in terms of just overall the wear and tear of our healthcare system. Yes. It will decrease the chances of overburdening our healthcare system and wearing out wonderful doctors like yourself, because it's a difference between, you taking care of, maybe, 4 or 5 patients who have coronavirus who are in the ICU or whatnot. Right. It's a much, greater thing for you to have to take care of 25 people, all at once who have the same thing. Right. So you really want to try to avoid, going in unless you really have to. Right. So wearing the masks are very important. Washing your hands on a regular basis is very important, and staying, keeping that not social distance, but that physical distance. Mm-hmm. That's very important for us, and using good, continue to use good hygiene techniques, sanitizing, things like that. So I would rather have an overabundance of caution, like your car. She has her car, like you said, in plastic.
It just says don't touch it.
Wow, and don't touch your car at all. No. And so. So I'd rather have that and make sure that you're safe, and taking those precautions, as opposed to not doing the things that could really help to truly save our lives. Not just people out here, there, wherever, but our family members, our loved ones, my grandmother, your cousin, your daughter, just different people who are very important to us.
Exactly.
So, well, great. Well, thank you. So it sounds like you work a lot. When you're actually here, because we're here in the hospital. So when you're here, you work, and you're working hard.
Yes.
So the hospital itself, do they actually help you in terms of just working with you against like burnout or wearing yourself out and helping you to take care of yourself?
I think they try, and I think everybody's trying, because I hear it everywhere. We want to prevent physician burnout. We want to prevent physician burnout, and and I think they've tried, but I don't think they've actually sat down and talked to any of us to say, hey, what really is important to you, and honestly, for doctors, our family's important to us. And actually, that's the number one thing. So when someone tells you, hey, we want you not to burn out, and it's important to us, the biggest thing, honestly, is to give us time with our family, or help us protect our family, like giving us PPE to protect ourselves. I think that's what prevents physician burnout. So when people say, "Oh, we got you a massage," I mean, it's a nice thought, it's a nice gesture, and it's great for the day. But what I want like big corporations and hospitals and conglomerates and everything to realize is, ask that person what's important to them and work at giving that and not pretend to give something else. I don't know.
So what kinds of, so if they were to come to you and say, what can we do to help you and to make your life better? What would be the one thing you would say?
Time with my family. Like if they said to me, hey, Dr. Nunn, we really appreciate all the time you've given us, and we're going to go ahead and give you a couple days more off to go hang out with your daughter. Or we got this, maybe not in the pandemic, but we got you tickets to go to Disneyland. Hey, when you spend time with just something like that. But but everybody has something different. Oh, 5 languages, right?
Yeah.
People have things, access of services, or if they, some
talking
people,
about the 5 love languages. So
right? And some people like to just be told, hey, I love what you do, thank you very much, and to them that's everything. And for some people it's gifts. Giving them a massage would have been the person who touched. Like some people like touch, and you give them a massage, that's their everything. And I think we're not one cookie cutter deal. Everybody's idea of what's important to them is different.
So your suggestion, it sounds like, is for the hospital to actually administer the test for the 5 love languages to all their employees,
that would make sense.
Especially maybe physicians who are working, it's hard. So, and then to, help each individual per whatever their love language is.
Yes.
Okay.
And that should apply to every employee. I mean, I'm sure everybody in the hospital, the janitors who are cleaning their rooms and trying to, get them going.
So I didn't mean just, physicians, but I'm saying, everyone, because we're all really in this together, and it's all we're all important. We're all really essential, really, when it comes to, God's world and God's work. So yeah. Well, thank you so much. That was just, wonderful information. Is there anything else? Okay, so one of the things that we always talk about on the Healthy Mind, Body, and Spirit show is, we talk about a lot of things, but how are we being about it? So we can talk about it, I can talk about I'm doing X, Y, and Z, or things are X, Y, and Z, but how are we being about it? So tell me what you are doing in terms of, in this pandemic, to, be healthy. Personally for yourself and then for your family. I think I got her on this one.
Yeah, you did. Yes, you did. And it's really hard because,
Please tell me you're at least taking some care of yourself.
I am, because I feel okay. I feel good. I go see my doctors, and I got my colonoscopy. I'm 45. I got my colonoscopy. I know there's right. Okay.
Good.
So
she's taking care of herself. So she's seeing her regular doctors. She's getting her screenings also. So she's practicing a part of what she's preaching.
Yes.
So yes.
And I do things. I do things that I love to do. And honestly, one of the things I love to do is to hang out with my daughter, and I love to learn.
Okay.
So just hanging out with her and just playing with her, I'm doing online school, and I'm sure you guys all understand how horrific it is, but there's that. But, the only good thing is at least I'm spending time with her.
So you're both learning.
We're both learning.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Not to have 2 birds with one stone.
Right. But for me, it's learning and reading books. So going to the library, online, and grabbing a book. So if you guys don't know it, there's apps on your phone that let you borrow books online. Audio too. So you don't have to get audio. What are the audio books? You have to pay for that. You don't have to pay for audio books from the library.
Yeah.
So
a couple of ones that we use is like Libby.
Yes, I have Libby. Yes. Oh, love Libby. So I just found out about it. So I feel like, oh my gosh, there's books everywhere. So, and the fact that they also have the audio is amazing, because you could just listen to it, when you're driving, and just learn something while you're driving. It's just amazing. So
awesome. So it's so great to hear that you're taking care of yourself. Yes. Wonderful. Thank you, Dr.
Thank
Chong.
you so much.
I call you Dr. Chong, but it's Chong Ing.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, you will. So yes. I'm just different pronunciations of it. In the Philippines, it's none.
Okay.
In China, it's ing. But since I'm half and half, you can really go either way.
Either way, okay. So I got it either way.
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah. So thank you for the great information on what it takes to become a physician, what it takes to become not only a physician, but an internal medicine physician, and then also what it takes to become a hospitalist and just the life of a hospitalist in the hospital. Thank you for making that a little bit more clear. And then, you've gone through some different challenges and hurdles in your life, and you're someone that we want to look to say, hey, okay, she's done it, and she's had some challenges being raised in a single parent home, and then having some challenges of people maybe doubting her and not believing that she could make it. But here you are, and we thank you for your inspiration. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So thank you for joining us on this show, Healthy Mind, Body, and Spirit.